parents sold her because of infertility, until a lonely lumberjack with 4 children took her in. Elara's world was small and cold, even in a galaxy filled with sparkling stars and glowing planets. She had grown up on Verelia, a colony where people were judged not by their heart or intelligence, but by their ability to bring new life into the world. Every family, every citizen, was under pressure to be useful in the eyes of society, and for Elara, usefulness had always been a problem. Since childhood, she had known that something was wrong with her body. While other children learned about their future roles as parents and workers, Elara had been told she could never have children. Doctors confirmed it, and despite their clinical words, her parents had never truly accepted her. She often felt like she was carrying a shadow inside her, a weight she could not understand and could not shake. Her parents, Taryn and Lysa, were well respected in the colony. They had ambitions, dreams of a strong family lineage, and an unwavering desire to be admired. But Elara, with her condition, was a problem in their perfect plan. They tried to hide their disappointment, but their eyes often betrayed them. She felt it most during the council days, when families paraded their children to demonstrate health and vitality. People whispered behind her back, "She can't continue the line," they said. A waste of resources. Elara learned to keep quiet. She stayed in her room, gazing through the translucent walls at the pink and purple skies of Verelia, where the clouds glowed faintly with bioluminescent mist. She would imagine a life where she was wanted for herself, not for what she could give society. But the reality was harsh. One morning, a sleek transport ship arrived at their home. Its chrome surface reflected the rising sun, and its engines hummed softly. Her parents called her into the living chamber. Elara's stomach tightened with fear. "Your place in this colony? It is no longer tenable," her father said, his voice calm but cold. "We have arranged for you to be relocated to a settlement on another planet. It is distant, but it will be better for you there." Elara blinked. "Relocated? Why, I can stay with you, right?" Her mother's lips pressed into a thin line. "Elara, you know we cannot. This colony, it has expectations. You cannot fulfill them. We are giving you a chance to survive elsewhere. This is the best for everyone." Elara felt her chest tighten. She had known this moment was coming, but hearing it out loud, feeling the finality, made her legs weak. Elsewhere? "But I don't even know anyone there." Her father shook his head. "That is not important. The transport will take care of you. You must leave." Tears blurred her vision as she was led to the ship. The interior was cold, metallic, and sterile. Rows of seats stretched into the distance, and a few passengers, like her, looked frightened and uncertain. No one spoke to her. She held her small bag of belongings tightly: a worn journal, a pendant her mother had given her at birth, and a single picture of the Verelia skyline. The ship lifted off with a quiet thrum, and Verelia's glowing clouds receded beneath her. For the first time in her life, Elara felt entirely alone. Her parents had not come to say goodbye. She wondered if they ever truly loved her, or only the idea of what she could have been. Days passed aboard the transport. The ship moved faster than any natural speed, slipping through wormholes and fields of cosmic dust. Elara tried to keep herself busy, reading the ship's informational screens and imagining the settlement she would reach. The other passengers avoided her, whispering in soft, worried tones. They were all sold, traded, or relocated, for one reason or another, each carrying a story that was heavy with fear. One night, as the ship passed near a glowing nebula, Elara stood at the observation window. The colors of the gas clouds, green, purple, and gold, swirled like liquid fire. She pressed her hand against the glass and whispered to herself, "Somewhere, I hope someone will want me for me." But that hope felt fragile, like it could shatter at any moment. Then, as the ship entered the orbit of a forested planet called Terran, 4 alarms blared. Red lights flashed and a mechanical voice echoed through the cabin. "Atmospheric disturbance detected. All passengers prepare for emergency landing." The ship shuddered violently. Elora fell to the floor, her heart pounding. Outside the window, she could see Terran, 4's thick green forests rushing up toward them. This was no gentle landing. It was a crash. The cabin shook, throwing passengers against walls and seats. Elara clutched her bag and braced herself. Then, with a bone-rattling impact, the ship hit the ground. Smoke and dust filled the air. The metallic taste of fear clung to her mouth. When she finally crawled out, her legs trembling, the world was unlike anything she had ever seen. Towering trees with luminescent leaves stretched high into the sky. Strange animals scuttled through the underbrush, and distant waterfalls glowed faintly in the twilight. The air smelled sweet, alive and clean. Terran 4 was wild, untamed, and beautiful, a far cry from the rigid, controlled life she had known. Elara took a deep breath and tried to steady herself. She was alone. For now. From the trees, she heard movement, the sound of someone, or something, approaching. A tall figure emerged, covered in rough clothes and carrying an axe slung across his back. His hair was dark and tangled, his skin sun-worn and weathered. But his eyes were warm, curious, and kind. "Hey there," he called gently. "You okay?" Elara froze. She did not know if she could trust anyone. I'm fine," she whispered, though her voice trembled. The man knelt down, careful not to scare her. "I'm Bran. You're far from home. Are you lost?" Elara nodded slowly. I don't know where I am."
The ship, it crashed.
Bran's gaze softened. "You're safe now. Come on, there's a cabin nearby. You can rest." Elara hesitated. The memory of her parents' rejection stung. Could she really trust someone else? But something in Bran's voice, something in the steady confidence of his posture, made her nod. Slowly she followed him through the glowing forest, each step taking her further from the life that had hurt her and closer to something unknown. As they walked, she noticed movement behind Bran. 4 children, each watching her with wide, curious eyes. One had messy hair and a grin that seemed fearless. Another clutched a stuffed creature that looked half alien, half toy. They studied her silently, and for the first time in days, Elara felt the stirrings of something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Bran led her to a small wooden cabin nestled among the luminescent trees. Smoke curled from a stone chimney, and the scent of cooking food filled the air. It was humble, simple, and warm, a stark contrast to the cold, sterile corridors of her transport ship. "Come in," Bran said. "You'll be safe here tonight. Tomorrow, we'll figure out what to do next." Elara stepped inside, her heart pounding but her mind strangely calm. The children circled around her, asking questions, poking gently at her bag, laughing in ways that reminded her of life she had only ever read about in stories. For the first time, Elara thought maybe, just maybe, she could belong somewhere again. And as she lay down that night, listening to the soft hum of the forest outside, she realized that Terran 4 was not just another settlement. It was the beginning of a new life. The first morning on Terran, 4 came quietly, with soft green light filtering through the trees and painting the cabin floor in gentle shades. Elara woke on a small cot Bran had offered her. The children were already up, whispering excitedly, their small feet padding across the wooden floor. "Good morning!" a cheerful voice called. It belonged to Milo, the oldest child, with messy hair and an adventurous grin. He peeked at Elara from behind a chair. "Did you sleep well?" Elara rubbed her eyes and gave a weak smile. I slept okay, thank you." The other children, Lena, who loved to ask questions about everything, Ravi, quiet and thoughtful, and Sari, the youngest, curious and energetic, crowded around her. They were cautious at first, but their curiosity outweighed their shyness. Bran entered the cabin carrying a tray of breakfast. The smell of warm bread and roasted root vegetables filled the air. "Eat first," he said kindly. "Then we can talk about the forest." Elara hesitated, glancing at the children. They stared at her expectantly, eyes wide and hopeful. She felt a small spark in her chest, a strange, unfamiliar feeling. Perhaps this was what family could feel like. As she ate, Bran explained the forest around them. Terran, Kamen, Tropin, Apatos.
4 isn't like most planets. The trees are alive in ways humans rarely understand.
Some respond to touch, others to sound. If you're careful, the forest can guide you. Elara listened intently. She had grown up in sterile colonies where every plant and animal was engineered and predictable. Taran, Darren called. Vibrant, dangerous, but in a way that made her heart race with excitement rather than fear. After breakfast, Bran led the children and Elara outside. The forest was breathtaking. Towering trees stretched high into the sky, their leaves glowing faintly in the soft morning light. Strange creatures darted between the trunks, small luminous insects, hopping animals with multiple eyes, and birds with translucent feathers. "Stick close," Bran warned. "The forest is beautiful, but it's not always safe." Elara nodded, her eyes wide. She had never imagined anything like this. On Varelia, the sky was often pink and purple, but the land was flat and controlled. Tarin, 4 felt alive, like it had a heartbeat. The children ran ahead, squealing with joy. Milo climbed a tree effortlessly, showing off for Lena and Sari. Ravi trailed behind Bran, studying the plants and animals with careful attention. Elara followed slowly, unsure how to move in such a wild, unpredictable place. Bran noticed her hesitation and smiled gently. "Take your time. Taran, 4 will accept you if you let it." As they walked, Elara noticed something extraordinary. Certain plants leaned toward her as she passed. Their leaves shimmered, almost like they recognized her presence. She reached out and touched one, a small vine with glowing blue flowers. It pulsed softly under her fingers, warm and alive. The children gasped. "Whoa!" Sari exclaimed. "It likes you." Elara laughed softly, a sound she hadn't heard from herself in a long time. For the first time in years, she felt useful, not for society's rules, but simply because she could connect with something alive and beautiful. Bran watched her closely. "Some people say, Taran, 4's forest choose who belongs."
Maybe it chose you.
Elara's heart lifted. She had been unwanted, discarded, but now something in this alien world seemed to accept her. As the day went on, Bran taught her how to navigate the forest safely. They climbed over roots, crossed small streams, and avoided areas where the ground glowed ominously, places that hid dangerous creatures. The children were full of energy, racing ahead and laughing, and slowly Elara began to relax, matching their pace. By mid-afternoon, they reached a clearing with a small pond, its water shimmering in rainbow hues under the sun. "This is our special place," Bran said softly. "We come here when we need to think, or when we need to feel connected to Taryn." 4. Elara knelt by the water, watching her reflection ripple. The image staring back at her was not the frightened girl who had been sold away. She saw a person who had survived a crash, who had walked through a strange forest, and who was beginning to belong somewhere. The children joined her, splashing lightly and giggling. For the first time, Elara laughed fully, freely, letting go of the sorrow that had weighed her down for so long. As the sun began to set, the forest transformed. The trees glowed brighter, the air shimmered with small floating lights, and the creatures of Taryn 4 became more active. Bran guided them back to the cabin, and Elara noticed how alive the forest was even at night. Over dinner, the children asked Elara questions. Lena wanted to know everything about Varelia. "Did you have glowing trees there?" she asked. "Did your parents love you?" Elara hesitated. The memories of her parents were painful. She shook her head. "Not really," she said simply.
But I think I'm learning what love can feel like now.
Milo grinned. "Good, because we like having you here."
"Right, everyone?" The other children nodded enthusiastically. Elara felt tears prick her eyes again, but this time they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of relief, of hope. After dinner, Bran took Elara aside. "You don't have to decide anything yet," he said gently. "You're welcome here, and so are your choices. Taryn 4 is big and wild, and it's patient. It'll let you find your place." Elara nodded, feeling a warmth she hadn't known in years. For the first time, she believed it was possible to start over, to build something real. That night, she lay on her cot, listening to the forest, the gentle hum of glowing insects, the soft rustle of leaves, and the distant call of unknown creatures became a lullaby. Elara realized something important. She was not just surviving, she was beginning to live. And as she drifted into sleep, she dreamed of the adventures that awaited her, of climbing trees with Milo, learning the secrets of Taryn 4's glowing groves, and discovering the strength that lay within herself. Somewhere, far across the galaxy, her parents had decided she was useless. But here, on this wild, beautiful planet, she was already more valuable than she had ever imagined. The next morning, Elara awoke to the sound of laughter. The children had been exploring the forest again, and Bran was calling them back. Today would be another day of discovery, of learning, of building connections that mattered more than any rules or expectations society could place on her. Elara stepped outside, feeling the warm glow of Taryn 4's sun on her skin. She breathed deeply, filling her lungs with the sweet, alive air. This was a life she could belong to. This was a family that wanted her. And for the first time in her life, Elara believed that maybe, just maybe, she could grow into the person she was meant to be. The forest stretched endlessly around her, full of mysteries and dangers, but also full of possibility. And as Bran and the children laughed ahead, Elara took her first steps toward a future she had never imagined, but one she was ready to embrace. The morning sun broke through the glowing canopy of Taryn 4's forest, scattering light across the cabin's wooden walls. Elara woke to the sound of chirping creatures and the rustle of leaves outside. Today was her third day with Bran and his children, and already she felt a spark of belonging that had never existed on Verelia. Bran was up early, sharpening his axe and organizing supplies for the day. "Breakfast first," he called. "Then we head out. Today you'll learn how to survive here properly." Elara hesitated, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Survival was something she had only read about in old books from Verelia. Now she would live it. She dressed quickly and joined the children at the small wooden table, where warm bread and roasted roots awaited. Milo, always the fearless one, nudged her. "Ready for adventure?" Elara smiled faintly. "I think so." After breakfast, Bran handed her a small pack filled with essentials: a sturdy rope, a basic knife, and a compact scanner to identify plants and creatures. "We'll start with the basics," he said. "How to read the forest, find food, and avoid danger." The children raced ahead, their laughter echoing through the trees. Elara followed Bran, taking in the sights around her. Taran For's forest was alive in ways she had never imagined. Leaves shimmered in different colors depending on how the sunlight hit them. Flowers opened and closed as if breathing, and even the rocks seemed to hum faintly with energy. "Pay attention," Bran said. "This forest can guide you. Plants react to your presence. Animals tell you where danger is. Taran, 4 rewards those who listen." Elara nodded, letting her hands brush over the glowing flora as they walked. To her surprise, some plants leaned toward her touch. One small vine curled around her fingers, pulsing gently. She looked at Bran in amazement. "That's unusual," he said, frowning slightly but curious. "Not everyone gets a reaction like that. Maybe the forest likes you." Elara felt a warmth spread through her chest. For so long she had been unwanted, cast aside for something she could not control. Yet here, in this alien wilderness, something recognized her worth. The children were quick learners. Milo climbed trees with ease. Lena collected edible fruits while asking 1,000 questions. Ravi observed everything quietly, noting patterns in plants and animal tracks, and Sari ran ahead, squealing whenever she found something glowing or moving. Elara followed cautiously, guided by Bran's instructions. She learned to read the shapes of leaves for water, to follow the soft hum of bioluminescent moss for safe paths, and to recognize which plants were dangerous. Each time she succeeded, a small thrill ran through her. She was learning. She was capable. By midday, they reached a clearing dominated by a massive, ancient tree, its trunk wider than 3 cabins and glowing faintly with soft blue light. "This is the luminous grove," Bran explained. "The heart of this forest. Families who live here come here to bond, to heal, and to grow stronger together." The children ran around the tree, touching its bark and giggling as the glow responded to their presence. Elara approached slowly. She placed her hand on the tree's trunk. The glow intensified under her touch, spreading up the branches like sunlight flooding through clouds. She gasped in wonder. Bran's eyes widened. "I've never seen it respond like that before." "The forest, it's acknowledging you. You're part of it now." Alara's chest swelled with emotion. For the first time, she felt truly powerful, not in the sense of physical strength, but in her ability to connect, nurture, and belong. The forest accepted her, and in turn, she began to accept herself. They spent the afternoon practicing more survival skills. Bran taught Elara how to craft simple tools from wood and stone, how to make fire safely, and how to track the smaller creatures of Taran, for without harming them. The children imitated her, laughing when she slipped or fumbled, but cheering when she succeeded. Elara found herself laughing too, a light, genuine sound. She felt a sense of accomplishment that had been absent from her life for years. Every small skill she mastered strengthened her confidence and her bond with this new family. As the sun began to set, they returned to the cabin. Bran handed Elara a small notebook. "Write down what you've learned today. Taryn, D. 4 has many secrets, and keeping notes will help you understand it better." Elara opened the notebook and began to write, sketching the glowing plants, the creatures they had seen, and her own observations. For the first time, her thoughts felt useful and valued. She was not just surviving, she was growing, learning, and contributing. That night, as they gathered around the cabin's hearth, Bran told stories of Taryn, 4's history, of settlers who had been rejected by their colonies, of children orphaned by disaster, and of families who had found strength and unity here. Elara listened intently, realizing that she was part of that story now. The children leaned on her, asking questions about Varelia and the stars beyond Terran 4. Elara shared what she knew, and in return they shared stories of the forest, of hidden caves and glowing rivers, of creatures no human had catalogued. Each story deepened her connection to this world. Later, when the children went to bed, Bran spoke to her quietly. "You're different, Elara. You've been through a lot, but Taryn
4 sees your value in ways most people never will. You have the ability to nurture, to lead, to grow something remarkable."
Elara swallowed hard. She had spent her whole life believing she was worthless, defined by what she could not give. But here, with Bran's family and the living forest around her, she began to understand that worth was not about what society demanded. It was about what one could contribute through love, care, and connection. Days turned into weeks, and Alara's skills grew. She became adept at navigating Taryn, 4's forests, identifying which plants could heal, which creatures were friendly, and how to protect the family from hidden dangers. The children looked up to her, not as a teacher, but as a companion, someone who could both guide and laugh with them. One evening, while exploring a hidden grove near their cabin, Elara discovered a small pond with water so clear it reflected the sky like glass. Tiny glowing creatures swirled in the water, reacting to her presence with gentle ripples. She knelt beside the pond, touching the water carefully. The glow intensified, creating patterns across the surface. "It likes you," Sari whispered from behind, her eyes wide with wonder. Elara smiled, a sense of joy swelling in her chest. She had never felt this connected to life before, not on Varelia, not in the sterile corridors of society. Here she could nurture, protect, and grow life in her own way. Bran joined them, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "You see, Elara? The forest recognizes your heart. You belong here, not because of what you were told you should be, but because of who you truly are." Elara nodded, feeling tears prick at the corners of her eyes. For the first time in her life, she understood that rejection was not the end, it was a path toward discovering her true worth. She had been cast aside, but Taryn 4 had embraced her, giving her a chance to thrive. That night, as she lay in the cabin listening to the soft glow of the forest outside, Elara felt a new strength rising within her. The past no longer defined her. The scars of rejection and loss were still there, but they were no longer chains. They were reminders of how far she had come. With Bran and the children by her side, with Taryn 4 responding to her presence, Elara knew one thing. She would no longer let society's narrow definitions limit her. She would grow, learn, and protect this new life she had been given. And as sleep claimed her, she dreamed not of fear or loss, but of the adventures to come, climbing the tallest trees, exploring glowing caves, and discovering the full power of her connection to Taryn. For she was no longer alone. She was part of something bigger, something alive, something that needed her as much as she needed it. Elara had found a new life, a family, and a purpose, and for the first time she believed that she could truly thrive. The Forest of Taryn by the Zil. 4 was alive in ways that still surprised Elara. Every day she discovered something new. A glowing vine that healed scratches, a small bird that could mimic sounds perfectly, and streams of water that pulsed with energy. She had grown confident navigating the forest, teaching the children how to listen to its whispers, and even helping Bran craft tools and traps for protection. But Taryn, beautiful and alive as it was, could be dangerous. One morning, as the sun painted golden streaks across the trees, Bran noticed something unusual. The small scanner he carried beeped rapidly. "Sensors are picking up movement," he muttered, frowning. He motioned for Elara and the children to follow him quietly. From the ridge above the cabin, they could see a hovercraft approaching. Its metal glinted in the sunlight, moving fast and low over the forest. Bran's eyes narrowed. "That's no local traveler. Someone's coming from outside, and they're not here to visit." Elara's heart sank. Could it be the colony that had sold her? The thought that people who had once discarded her were now coming to reclaim her filled her with fear and anger. She gripped the small knife Bran had given her, her hands trembling slightly. The children watched her, sensing the tension.
"Are they going to hurt us?" Milo asked, his voice small.
"No," Elara said firmly, though her stomach twisted with worry. "We'll be careful. We can protect ourselves, and the forest will help." Bran nodded.
Exactly. Taryn. 4 favors those who respect it. We know these woods.
We can defend our home without unnecessary violence. As the hovercraft drew closer, Elara's mind raced. She remembered everything Bran had taught her, the safe paths, the traps they had set for small predators, and the secret groves that could hide them. Taryn, for itself, seemed to sense her resolve. The glowing plants along the trail pulsed brighter, as if giving her strength. When the intruders landed near the clearing, Elara and Bran observed them from the trees. 3 uniformed figures emerged, scanning the forest with handheld devices. Their equipment looked high-tech but rigid, lacking the adaptability that Taryn. They were outsiders, used to controlling everything, and they clearly underestimated the forest. Bran whispered, "Stay calm. We'll lead them where we want." Elara nodded, her fear slowly transforming into determination. For the first time, she felt that her worth wasn't defined by anyone else's rules. She had survived the crash, learned the forest, and bonded with this family. Now she would defend it. She led Milo, Lena, Ravi, and Sari along a winding path toward a dense grove. The glowing trees bent slightly, shielding their movement. Elara felt a pulse of energy run through her. Taryn. 4 was responding to her, helping her move unseen. The intruders followed, scanning and shouting, but their technology faltered among the bioluminescent foliage. Vines seemed to shift subtly, roots moved underfoot, and glowing spores drifted into their sensors, confusing their readings. Elara signaled Bran, and together they guided the children to a hidden ridge above the grove. From this vantage point, they could see the intruders struggling to navigate the forest. One tripped over a hidden root, Another nearly fell into a shallow pond of glowing water, and the third muttered in frustration as his equipment failed. Elara felt a rush of confidence. The forest had chosen her, and now it was protecting her home. "We can do this," she whispered. "Stay quiet and stay together." Bran smiled faintly. "Good. Terran, 4 works with those who respect it." The intruders regrouped and attempted a more direct approach, but Elara had prepared. Using knowledge of the terrain, she guided the children to set small but effective traps, vines that snapped lightly to tangle ankles, glowing spores that distracted sensors, and branches that bent under weight to trip unsuspecting feet. Each trap worked perfectly, slowing the outsiders and causing confusion. One intruder raised a handheld weapon, clearly frustrated. "Where are they hiding?" he shouted. "They don't belong here," Elara said quietly, her voice steady. She realized that she no longer felt like a helpless girl. She had agency now, skills, and a bond with Terran. 4 that gave her an edge no outsider could match. As the intruders stumbled into the traps, Bran and Elara moved with precision. They avoided confrontation, letting the forest do most of the work. The glowing trees bent subtly, roots shifted, and a soft, almost musical hum filled the air. Taring. 4 was alive, and it was on their side. Eventually, the intruders, exhausted and confused, retreated to their hovercraft. They tried one last scan, but the forest glow overwhelmed their sensors. Bran and Elara watched as the hovercraft lifted and disappeared into the distance. The children cheered softly, hugging Elara and Bran.
"We did it!" Milo exclaimed. "Yes," Elara said, smiling.
Her chest felt full, not of pride alone, but of something deeper. She had protected her new family, learned to trust herself, and realized her true strength. She was more than society had ever allowed her to be. That evening, around the cabin's hearth, Bran spoke quietly. "Elara, you've grown stronger than most settlers. Terran, 4 has always been selective, but it's clear you belong here. You're a guardian of this forest now, and a part of our family." Elara felt tears well up, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of joy, of relief, of finally finding a place where she mattered. She looked at the children, their faces glowing with the light of the hearth, and felt a warmth that reached deep into her soul. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft but firm. "Thank you for letting me stay, for trusting me, for believing in me." Bran nodded. "We never doubted you, Elara. You had to see it for yourself. Now you know your worth. And Terran, 4 has shown you why you belong." Over the next few days, the forest seemed to respond even more to Elara. Plants leaned toward her as she walked. Small creatures followed her at a distance, and the glowing spores pulsed brighter around her touch. The children laughed and played, learning from her, and she began teaching them how to move safely through the forest and respect its hidden rhythms. Elara discovered a unique talent. She could sense when a plant or animal needed help. A small, sickly vine that had been struggling to grow leaned toward her hands, and under her care it began to thrive. A wounded creature approached her, trusting her gentle touch. She realized that fertility, the thing that had defined her as useless on Varelia, had taken a new form. She was fertile in a way the colonists had never considered, fertile with life, with care, and with connection. Bran noticed her growing confidence and smiled. "You're remarkable, Elara."
You were rejected by one society, but Terran, 4 has shown you your true purpose. You nurture life, and life responds.
The children gathered around her, their faces full of admiration. Milo handed her a glowing fruit from a nearby tree. "For you," he said simply, "because you helped us today."
Alara laughed softly and accepted it.
"Thank you," she said, "but it's really Taryn."
Or that helps us. Listen.
That night, as the stars of Terran 4 shone through the canopy, Ilara lay on her cot, thinking about the past. The colony had tried to define her, to limit her, and even sell her as though she were an object. But here, with Bran, the children, and the living forest, she had found freedom, purpose, and respect. She realized something powerful. Worth was not measured by society's narrow rules. It was measured by courage, care, and the ability to grow and protect life in all its forms. Taryn 4 had given her a chance to thrive. Bran had given her a family. And for the first time, Alara believed that she could face any challenge, not with fear, but with determination, skill, and the knowledge that she was never alone again. The intruders might return, and the universe beyond Terran 4 might still try to define her by outdated rules. But Alara no longer feared their judgments. She had proven her strength, her ingenuity, and her place in a world that finally recognized her worth. And as sleep claimed her, she dreamed of the glowing forest, of the children laughing, and of the adventures yet to come. Taryn 4 was hers to protect, and she would do so with courage, heart, and the knowledge that she was more than anyone had ever allowed her to be. Alara had survived rejection, found family, and learned the true meaning of strength. The forest whispered softly around her, a lullaby of glowing light and life, promising that no matter what challenges came next, she would face them and triumph.